All right, so I moved back to the Bay Area. I moved to San Francisco about a year ago. And before I moved to San Francisco, I've been traveling the world and living in different countries, spending anywhere from a week to some week in some places to maybe 3 years in other places. And I did this for about, I would say, almost 10 years. I lived in Japan, was in Argentina, was in Brazil, Taipei, traveled around Europe, saw the Middle East, all of that, and moved back to San Francisco about a year ago. The culture here is completely different, and it's kind of like a culture shock when you move back to the United States. And there's pros and cons about every single place that you live in this world. But one of the things I see as a major con is the corporate lifestyle. And I'm not saying that they don't have that corporate lifestyle everywhere else, but I don't think it's so pronounced. And in San Francisco, I can only imagine might be one of the worst places for living in that corporate lifestyle just because there's so much corporate money out here. This is basically the tech hub of the world. So you got Google out here, you got Apple out here, you got all these companies that want a piece of the pie, and that pie being artificial intelligence, marketing, whatever it may be. I don't work in tech, but I work around people who work in tech. I work around people who work in finance. There's so much money coming in and out of this city. I'd be interested to know what San Francisco's GDP would be, or what basically where would San Francisco rank in terms of world economies if San Francisco was its own country. And that'd be interesting because I would say it'd probably be pretty high. But along with living that corporate lifestyle comes along by playing corporate rules, and living corporate lifestyle has negative effects on our mental, on our spiritual, and definitely on our physical. So I work as a personal trainer out here in San Francisco, and I work with a lot of people who are lawyers, finance bros, tech bros, marketers, you name it. Everything that you can think about profession out here, I probably work with somebody in that field. And I would say the most popular fields out here is finance and tech. And one thing I notice about a lot of these cats who come in is that they're almost broken physically. And a lot of times that can lead to them being broken mentally as well. And physically, a lot of times we can live a certain lifestyle and normalize things to the point that we don't even realize that what we're doing to ourselves. We're sabotaging ourselves. And with a lot of these cats who work in these offices or just work at home, people like to glorify remote work, or they glorify working from home. But at the end of the day, you still stuck in front of a computer. You still stuck behind a desk doing this, bad posture. You know what I mean? All that type of shit. And at the end of the day, your body's not going to move the same after doing 5 years of what I would consider hard labor in a tech field or a financial field. And you're basically screwing yourself in long-term longevity, and on top of that, just the way you can enjoy every single everyday life. At the end of the day, you don't even need to think about longevity. You could just think about the right now. How does your body move? How do you feel? How confident do you feel? um, are you functional? These type of things. And most of the people who come in to train with me, or most of the people that I work with who work in these fields, are not functional. They're younger than me. I'm almost 40 years old. I'm gonna be 39 years old next month. A lot of these people look 15 years older than I look. And at the end of the day, they're 25 to 35 years old. Yeah, they're making money, but do they have time? They don't have time. Do they have health? A lot of these people don't have health. And granted, I've had health situations in my life, and nobody's health is guaranteed. It doesn't matter how much you work out, doesn't matter how much you eat right or anything like that. But there is a lot of things, a lot of variables that we do have control of. And sitting in front of a desk all day, not moving, not getting 10,000 steps every single day are part of that equation. And by the and another thing, like I said, let me speak on that time piece. So a lot of these people don't have time. Some of these finance cats, as a matter of fact, dude who I trained today, one of my clients, this dude's 20, I want to say, I'm not exactly sure his age. He's anywhere from like 26 to 28 years old. And the cat told me he works anywhere from 80 to 85 hours per week. That means you have no social life. That means you have no time to upkeep your health. That means you have no time to socialize with other people. That means you have no time for a romantic relationship. And at the end of the day, these are all things that are essential for us to thrive as human beings. And, if it's not 85 hours a week, it might be another person that's working 65 hours per week. And if it's not somebody working 65 hours per week, it's somebody who's working 45 hours per week sitting down in front of a computer. And even if you're only working 30 hours per week in front of a computer, sitting down for that long of a stretch of time is going to have some bad effects on your posture, on your body. You got to think, a lot of these people aren't working out. Bone density starts to go away after you're 30 years old. So that starts to diminish. And if you're not keeping up with your resistance training, it's going to diminish at a way faster rate. And if you are resistance training, then you're going to be able to hold on to that bone structure and maybe even improve your bone density with the right type of workout regimen. But let's move on to the next aspect of, yeah, go ahead. Yeah, you're all good. Let's move on to the next aspect of why that corporate lifestyle is terrible for you. And, at the end of the day, we all make our own decisions in life. Some people might be better off monetarily by taking a corporate job or, living that corporate lifestyle. But at the end of the day, personally, money's just not worth that much to me. And at the end of the day, you can make money doing other things. I make money doing something I'm super passionate about. But anyways, the spiritual and mental aspect of how corporate jobs fuck with you. So I had an experience with somebody today and somebody last week at the gym. And it's just, I tend to notice a lot of these people, and I'm probably making assumptions, but at the end of the day, I'm always assuming whoever it is that works out at the gym that I work out at, because of the areas, and it's in the Marina District of San Francisco, I'm assuming 9 times out of 10, they're working some type of corporate job. And I'm assuming tech, finance, whatever it may be. And a lot of times in these environments, people have to communicate a certain way. They have to behave a certain way. And one thing I notice is a lot of these men who work in these corporate environments are super passive, and they can be passive aggressive. So basically, what corporate life does, it just turns you into a bitch. And no disrespect to anybody who lives in that or who works in that corporate environment. At the end of the day, if you work for any company, it's a corporate environment. But in the case of, I'm thinking more so in terms of a tech job. So let's just say, here's another aspect. If you are basically being spoon fed by a company, and you're being fed by a company, and not saying that you're not working for your food, but at the end of the day, if you're solely relying on one company for your lifestyle, and a lot of times when people start making more money like they do in San Francisco, they start living a more extravagant lifestyle, and their lifestyle is not simple anymore. So when they've built up this extravagant lifestyle and they have all this high overhead, the spoon that's feeding you is a super valuable spoon, and you can't necessarily jeopardize getting that meal from that company. And when you're working for these corporate institutions, you have to play by the rules. You have to play ball. You have to speak a certain way. You can't even be yourself anymore, which is a huge problem. They put you into a box in terms of the way you communicate, in terms of the way you behave, in terms of the way you communicate, in terms of the way you behave. And really, that's no way to live your life. And also, that can have you walking on eggshells to a certain degree. And when you're walking on eggshells with certain people, you tend to end up like, it's just like, I'm not even somebody who does the whole corporate email thing, but I've just heard jokes and memes about corporate emails and how passive aggressive people are in those corporate emails. So this kind of changes who you are when you're at work. And you have to think, if you're working 10 hours a day, you're working 8 to 12 hours a day, who you are 8 to 12 hours a day is pretty much safe to say that's who you are. So if you're changing the way you are and being super passive aggressive at work, chances are you're going to take those bad habits with you into whatever other aspect of your life it is, whether it's your relationship, whether it's dealing with strangers in public. And that's one thing I noticed by, just interactions with people in the Marina District in San Francisco, Pacific Heights, and the way people behave in this country is just not normal. You know what I mean? Like I said, I've been living abroad, living in different environments for probably the past 10 years. And granted, one of those environments was Hawaii for 4.5 years. Hawaii is a part of the United States, but at the end of the day, Hawaii is a little bit different. It's a little bit freer. It's a little bit more laid back. People live a different type of lifestyle. There's a different culture over there. But what's the next point? So let's talk about why people are even putting themselves into these super unhealthy environments. People are putting themselves into this super unhealthy environment over a dollar bill. You know what I mean? Over something that comes and goes. You can have money one day, you can lose money the other day, the next day. And for a lot of these people, they're coming to the harsh realization that these companies really don't care about you. You're expendable. Layoffs happen out here literally probably every month, every week. Different companies laying off a good percentage of their staffing or their job workforce or whatever you want to call it. And at the end of the day, it doesn't mean that the company's doing bad financially. A lot of these companies that are laying people off, Google, Apple, whoever it is out here you think of, a lot of these companies are thriving when it comes down to their stock and what they're doing as a business, but they just think we can run our company cheaper and more efficient by getting rid of said number of employees. And that's real talk. And at the end of the day, if you're somebody who's not producing and you're somebody who maybe is just in a position that might not be as valuable to the company, they'll just get rid of your ass. And at the end of the day, you've sold your soul pretty much. You've sold your soul pretty much for money and thinking that this money is going to make your life so much more valuable. And at the end of the day, they can take that right from underneath your feet. And when it comes down to getting these jobs in this tech world or getting these jobs in this finance world, man, you got to go through like 3, 4, 5 different interviews just to even be a final candidate, which is pretty ridiculous. But another aspect, what do people want money for? People want money for these material objects. People want money for for men, is to make themselves more appealing to the opposite sex, make themselves more appealing to women. Let's just keep it real. At the end of the day, one of the main motivations as a man in life is to find a woman that you want to be with. Or maybe you're in that type of season in your life where your main motivation is to be with as many women as possible. But at the end of the day, women is always going to be a major aspect of what's going on in a man's mind when it comes down to his motivations on what he's doing with himself. And a lot of these guys have it backwards, thinking that more money equals more women, more money equals a better lifestyle, more money equals, more abundance. When in all reality, it doesn't. You want to make sure that you have more time. You want to make sure that you have more health. You want to make sure that you have more quality. And at the end of the day, when it comes down to women, one thing that people don't really realize, and there's a group of everybody in life who has different motivations, but from my experiences in life, somebody who's never been balling out of control, I would tell you that women don't care about money as much as you think they do, or as much as a lot of people think they do. And a lot of women just want a quality individual. And when it comes down to making yourself a quality individual, making yourself more interesting by doing interesting things with your time is something that women perceive as a high character trait. For one thing that I would say that I have in my coattail, or whatever you want to call it, in my tool belt when it came down to dating and making myself a attractive person to women, is the fact that I've traveled the world. Like, a lot of people can't say that they spent their 20s and 30s traveling to all these different countries. And if I would have been locked down in a corporate job, I would have never been able to do that. So you have to think about these type of things and think about if you're just a drone moving through life as a piece on an assembly line versus somebody who's actually out there living life and actually trying to make a difference in this world. And I know that sounds harsh and I know that sounds judgmental, but at the end of the day, we all have gifts and we all have a greater mission in life. So we should be trying to figure out what that greater mission is as fast as we possibly can. I know it takes time, but at the end of the day, exploring is one of the ways that we can figure these things out. So I think that corporate life and working a job in that corporate environment, for the most part, I think most people aren't necessarily super passionate about it. It's more about the money. I think that pretty much robs you of that exploration and robs you of the chance to get on your mission quicker than maybe somebody who spent 30 years working for a corporation. But at the end of the day, like I said, when it comes down to some of the things that we want, the one of the things I've noticed is that when I live a simpler lifestyle, I'm actually way more happy. When I was probably the happiest I've been in life is when I was living in Hawaii. I was living a super simple lifestyle. Didn't need too much. You had nature at your fingertips. You had the mountains, you had the ridge lines, you had the ocean. You could surf, you can swim, you can do all that. Walk outside, get the sunlight, get the energy from the sun. You got that nice humidity, keeps the skin nice and moist, keeps the skin nice and fresh, makes you look 10 years younger than what you might probably are. But the simpler life that you live when you're enjoying nature and people and just the small things in life, you end up way more happy than chasing after a lot of material things or chasing after things that people tell you that you're supposed to have. Oh, you're supposed to own a home by the time you're 30. Oh, you're supposed to get married by X, Y, and Z. At the end of the day, if that's something you really want, that's great. But at the end of the day, we need to step outside of the box and create our own paradigms and create our own environment. So I'm definitely not somebody who's for that corporate lifestyle. And at the end of the day, I must say this one more time. I think living that corporate life and being in that corporate world turns you into a bitch, straight up. But anyways, guys, hope everybody enjoyed this one. I'll holler at you guys later. Peace. Leave a comment in the comment section if you agree, disagree, or just want to chime in and add something to this. Peace.